Welcome to the Washdown podcast, episode number 66. And today our guest is Rachel Scattergood. Rachel is a police officer and has been for 10 years. She's served in a variety of roles there. She is also on the board of directors and is the treasurer for SWEL, Surf Waves Enjoy Life. We've had those guys on before, talked about their program. We talk about that with her a little bit. Talk about just mental health in general in the police service and fire service. So it was a great conversation. James and I had a great time making this episode. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get something out of it. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And check out her social media stuff, which we'll leave a link in the description. But anyway, here is episode 66 of the Washdown podcast with guest Rachel Scattergood.
I occasionally just get little hairs up my ass, like, hey, I'm going to go do this. So one day I was just like, I'm going to go buy a cow. So I went and I got this calf and I brought her home, and I think she was about 2 days old, and I found this, I don't remember where I saw it, probably on TikTok or something. I saw somebody had this little trucker hat on their dog. And I'm like, that is cute as shit. I'm going to put that on this cow. And I did, and I just happened to get a video of her, like, licking my pit bull wearing this trucker hat. People lost their minds. I mean, it went so crazy, and ever since then, people love it. Yeah. Yeah. So I get to show off all my 10,000 animals on the farm, and they get to make little cameos with our star cow. But yeah, she's damn cute. I'll give her that. Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, maybe that's what we need to boost our profiles.
A cow?
No, just start making TikToks of the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Or we have a cow on. That'd be
Yeah.
pretty damn
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It might track in a little bit, but
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
let's lay some
know.
plastic and newspaper down.
I know somebody with a pig. We can.
Oh.
Yeah. I got one of those too.
What?
I have like everything. Yeah, I've got
whole-
a pig. Her name is Wilma. She's a bitch. She doesn't like anybody. She's so antisocial. Yeah.
Yeah. The guy that I know that has a pig. The pig sleeps in the bed with him.
Really?
Yeah. It's.
Yeah, not mine.
Pigs are very clean animals.
Usually, yes.
Says no one who's ever been to a pig farm.
Right. Yeah. Mine is all covered in mud at the moment, but as is kind of everybody with all this rain that we're getting, it's a mud pit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was nice outside yesterday to walk 2 feet from the apron at the station and sink halfway up to my ankles.
I literally went through, I kept forgetting shit in my truck yesterday at the station, so I kept having to go out and back and out and back. I think I went through like 5 pairs of socks yesterday because I just kept stepping in puddles. Son of a bitch.
Why didn't you put your bunker boots on
I
after the first time?
didn't think that far.
The second time? The third time even.
I thought I had them figured out.
Oh.
It's like, like playing like the boss in like a video game, like you figure out all the first moves, you're like, I got this, and then he hits you with someone like, son of a bitch, didn't see that coming.
Except you were playing Frogger
Yeah.
and failing.
It got real bad after dark.
I'm just impressed that you had 5 pairs of socks with you.
Well, I only unloaded like all the non-fire department shit from my bag when I got back from Moab, so I still had all the socks and underwear in there.
How was that?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. I'm going to rub it in Jeremy's face so much that he didn't go.
Hey,
That
man.
sounds awesome.
Have you ever been out there? 1,000% recommend it.
Yeah.
Well, everything's out there. There's like kayaking, bicycling, hiking, jeeping, side-by-side, motorcycling. Like you can do it all.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Throw that on the bucket list. Sounds awesome.
Just don't do Pritchett Canyon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I fucked my Jeep up.
Called it. For everybody who's watched the last 5 episodes, we've talked about this, and we knew it was going to happen. So what'd you break?
Crushed my rear tail light,
Okay.
which is I'm just gonna like pop it out and then put armor over it, so it's
Yeah.
absolutely crushed both my rock rails. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's gonna be fun. Split like my exhaust, so I got like an exhaust leak now from where I flexed and hit a rock, and like I don't know how I did it. I legit am looking at maybe new skid plating because I fucked it up pretty bad. But I made it out, so it's all good. Opie grenaded his rear end.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, but we made it out, so it's all good. But it was the hardest trail we've ever done.
Yeah. Have you never watched it on YouTube?
Well, I did. It just doesn't put it in perspective until you're like standing up looking at it. And you're like, oh, yeah, that is taller than 4 Jeeps, just like it looked in the video.
Oh my god!
The only thing that really actually what saved us truly is a couple of the bad obstacles had winch points at the top.
Yeah.
So, like, that saved us. Otherwise, we were like winching to boulders that were like, please be heavier than the Jeep. Oh, it's moving. Okay, you're up. All right, hurry up. It was a good test for the Rubicon Trail, I'll say that.
Probably what you guys did there is harder than anything on the Rubicon.
I don't see how anything could be harder, truthfully. And I don't mean to, like, toot horns. It was just like, what the hell is going... Like, this is not fun.
Yeah.
First couple were like, woohoo, yeah, this is cool. After that, it's just like literally to get out of the canyon is a 40-foot waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's like the boss at the final level. Just like, what the fuck? No winch point, nothing. Just
How many video games have you been playing yesterday or lately? Because that's the second reference in like the past 2 minutes.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, none. I don't play video games a lot. But yeah, it was just like I can't even say final level because then that would be another video.
Yeah.
Well, you just said it, so we're already there.
I don't even know you. Who invited you?
Well, we should get to know her then.
Go play with your pissy pig.
She is busy.
Well, Rachel, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah,
We
thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Cool. So why don't we start? You are in law enforcement.
Yep.
Okay. How did you get in law enforcement?
Failed out of the fire academy.
No. First responder right here. Yeah, no. So third grade career day, actually, we had one of the kids' dads came in. He was an FBI agent and showed us how to take fingerprints off of a glass, and I just thought that was the coolest shit. So I'm like, I want to do that. So I did it, and it's nice. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. 8 years old, this is what I'm going to do. So that was what I did. Straightforward.
That's why I've like never committed crimes because like I don't know, 3rd or 4th grade in Boy Scouts they came in and took our fingerprints and showed us how to do it. And I'm like, well, they've got my fingerprints now. I can't do anything.
Oh yeah.
Wear gloves.
Right. And don't talk to the cops. Yeah.
See, I'm an idiot. They'll forget to wear gloves and then like get home from my crime and be like, shit.
So what was the process? I mean, so I'm sure there was more to it than that. So, I mean, did you go to college for it?
I did. I was one of the dumb folks that went and got a degree in law enforcement. I wish I'd got a degree in something else because you don't need a degree to go into law enforcement. But I did. I went and I got a 4-year bachelor's degree in law enforcement. And then I went and joined the department here. I'm from Illinois. And I did 2 internships kind of during the course of school. And the first one was with a local sheriff's department back home. And I wanted to do a federal one, so I moved out here so we could, back when they had the federal complex out on Bannister, interned out here with the federal agency. And it's just, out here is so much better than being in Illinois.
Really?
So I stayed. Oh, beyond. I can't even explain how much better it is.
Like, what is just like cost of living or
Everything.
things to do? Or?
Cost of living, gas prices. Our government isn't 100% corrupt. The weather is so much better. It's so much prettier outside. Like Illinois, like the last 3 of their 4 governors, it was a point where our 3 governors in a row had all been to prison. Like, it was it was some serious corruption going on.
Damn, that's some mafia.
Yeah. Well, when everybody's from Chicago, that's kind of how it goes. So, I got the heck out of there, and it's so pretty out here, especially kind of like in our metro area. And you can go, a 10, 20-minute drive from middle of the big city to out in the country, and you kind of have everything in a short distance here, which is awesome. So, it was just much better out here, and I enjoyed my local internship much, much better than my federal one, so I just started throwing applications out and got hired, and I've been here since.
Cool. So how did you get involved with SWEL?
Yeah.
So what do you do with them?
I'm on the board of directors for SWEL, which stands for Surf, Waves, Enjoy Life, and I serve as their treasurer. I got involved with them. I was on actually a participant in their first mission, or their first trip. Coming up on a 2-year anniversary, my buddy was shot and killed in the line of duty, and that was right around the time that SWEL started. So SWEL reached out to our department and said, hey, we want to send, his closest buddies out on this mental health retreat, and who should we send? So I got to go with 2 of my buddy Mike's other closest friends and go out on this retreat to California. It kind of came about, they contacted me and were like, hey, we want to send you out to LA to go surfing and go on this, mental health, wellness, all these buzzwords retreat. And I'm just like, oh, you want to send me on a vacation to the beach? Like, all right, I'm in, but I did not, it wasn't possible for me to comprehend how beneficial it was going to be, because number one, just taking you out of your trauma environment for even just a short period of time was so beneficial, especially being so soon after it happened, and really the whole department and a lot of the community going through what we were going through. It was nice to be taken out of that, where at the time it was just 24 hours a day, everywhere I looked, if my eyes were open, I was seeing reminders of what had happened. So to be taken out of that environment and be able to just breathe for a second was super beneficial. But even more than that, I had never surfed before. I had never planned on learning how to surf. So you put me in the middle of the ocean and you're like, here's some tips. Good luck, try it out. You have to be so 100% focused on what you're doing to not die, right?
Yeah.
So that was really helpful to take away all of the background noise that was going on in my mind of not only still thinking about what had happened, but also all these thoughts going in my mind of, why are you grieving this way? Why are you grieving in this kind of timeline? Why did this happen? All these background thoughts going on in my head had to shut off, because you have to be so focused on all these different things that they've taught you to be able to do it and do it safely, that it was really, in the height of what was happening, a solid 4 or 5 days of not having to think about it at all, and just having a break from all of that weight and stress, and being able to then come back and be like, hey, that was really amazing. I never would have thought that, quote, surf therapy would be so helpful and beneficial. And I want to get involved with this and be a part of it to be able to help other people that are going through other kinds of things to be able to experience what I was able to experience.
Cool. Yeah, it seems to be one of the things and one of the main differences between fire and police and military, and the whole, you talk about PTSD and trauma and things like that, is people in the military, they go off to war wherever and they do whatever they do. The trauma's there. Mm-hmm. So whenever they come home, they might, and I'm not saying they don't see reminders of it everywhere you go, but for us, we will drive down the street and go, I ran a dead kid in that house, mm-hmm. or, my partner got shot right here. Mm-hmm. It's not removed by countries and oceans.
Right.
It's right here, and we're staying in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, being able to remove and go away for a little while, I can definitely see the benefit of that.
Yeah. And fortunately or unfortunately, he was killed a block away from our station. So we drive by it multiple times every single day. So I say fortunately and unfortunately, like at the beginning, that sucked because you had to constantly see it. But it also helped desensitize us to that location because you had to go by it multiple times a day. So it's now I can drive by it and not just have this just awful feeling every time I do because we've done it so many times now.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was so close like that. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because he was going to work and it was right there.
jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you did bring up a good point, Jeremy. It's especially too, like, kind of in from a fire station perspective, like when you have your district, even just in a year, you've had probably 20 bad spots, bad calls. A cardiac arrest that went wrong, or a shooting, or a bad wreck, and it accumulates very quickly. And then all of a sudden, it's like no matter where you go in your district, no matter what block, no matter what street, there's something bad that's happened here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I give you a perfect example of that. Yesterday, I was working at my old station, and here address come out, and we get sent on a call, and I'm like, nope, I know that address. I've been there multiple times, and it wasn't for anything bad. It was just, a lift assist or, whatever, but it was still, I remember that stuff.
Right.
I know exactly, okay, I
What,
remember the
maybe
garage code.
A year and a half removed,
Yeah.
probably?
Yeah. At least a year and a half.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just, those kind of things stick with you. And like I said, we just kind of stay in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why, in our line of work, we need to be really, really cognizant of our mental health and how we're dealing with it, and that we are dealing with it, and that we're not just sweeping it under the rug.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the more programs that we can have, or, the more awareness that we can have, it's only going to benefit everybody.
Right.
And it has to be a cultural shift, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
From the top down and from the bottom up.
Right.
It can't be one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got to be on board.
Yeah. And just talking about things like that, like how you're stuck in this environment that you can't really escape, and just talking with each other about that. And this is why, we have this trauma and PTSD within our careers, because, and obviously we've gotten tremendously better about that over the last several years. But educating even each other, because I know several people that are diagnosed with PTSD in my field, and they have this like imposter syndrome, because what we've grown up watching on television is that it's the military that has PTSD, and it's because they're in this environment where things are blowing up and their friends are dying all around them, and it's so traumatic. And we try to just say, well, that's PTSD. What I'm dealing with isn't PTSD, and just educating each other on that. And we've gotten, I think, substantially better over the years, but just continuing that dialogue and education of PTSD looks different for different places and different people.
No, absolutely it does. It's definitely an individual type thing, because, we can be at the same incident and it will affect us vastly differently.
Oh, yeah.
It could be, because that kid reminds me of my 2-year-old nephew, or, it could be, reminds him of his mom, or whatever it may be. And it may bother him a lot and lead down that road if we're not careful,
Right.
where it doesn't really affect me at all.
Right.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And then I think being able to have that open door and making it okay that we can talk to each other about that, because, I mean, let's face it, our departments, yes, we're making strides. We've got the peer support and the EAP, and we have all of this stuff, but there is nothing wrong with, hey man, are you hurting?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me.
Right.
Tell me what's going on. It doesn't have to be official.
Right.
You don't have to get on the phone and call somebody and make it a big deal. It's totally okay to go, hey, and then in the course of that conversation, you realize, okay, this is way bigger than what we can just talk out.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing, okay, now it's time to bring somebody else in, a higher level of care. We do the same thing every day.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go on a medical call and it's like, okay, you can drive yourself to the hospital, or no, we need to take you.
Right.
It's something we can fix, or you have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Rachel, I'm curious, at least in the fire service, in Jeremy and I's job, the station has anywhere from 4 to 10 other guys every day. We have a good kind of network around us. It's designed to look like, we call it a firehouse for a reason. You know, it's
Right.
There's a kind of just aura and everything about it that, I don't know, I guess you could say is inviting, you know. My point being, what have we seen? We both kind of agreed that law enforcement and fire and EMS in the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years has made a lot of greater strides, especially as we've seen a lot of veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, transitioning to these fields, and they're kind of being the one raising those flags, being like, hey, kind of the same shit's still going on. What's kind of the biggest difference from how law enforcement has grown in that versus fire and EMS? Because one of the big ones that stands out for me is, I think probably the mental fit for duty. It's law enforcement definitely goes through a tighter scrutiny for mental evaluation at hiring and throughout their job, just especially with the nature of what you have to do.
Right.
Would you say it's slower, faster, kind of adjusted the same as fire and EMS? What have you noticed in the difference with that?
You know, it's kind of a little tough question there, James. I mean, we obviously have our, onboarding process, and that's, you have to go through psych, and you have to go through a polygraph, and you have to go through these things to make sure that you're mentally fit for duty. Depending upon your position, depends upon at least where I'm at, how often you're doing, or if you're doing like continual fit for duty, like evaluations. There are some positions where you're required to do that every year, or like if you're on the peer support team, we have one coming up where we have to go do a mental check, fit for duty kind of thing. Not a fit for duty, but just like a check-in, like, hey, you deal with everybody else's crap. How are you doing kind of thing? And that's the first one we've done, and we've existed for like 5-ish years. So we're starting to do that and make that a thing. So that's a good step in the right direction for the peer support team. As far as like a continual, if you're already employed, if you're not in a specific position where it's required, it's really just if we see something kind of going on, or you're not quite acting the same, or it seems like something's off with you, we'll put you in touch with the peer support team and get you some resources so that can be done like confidentially, and the department doesn't need to know what's going on with your business. If they think that you're like a danger to yourself or to others, then they'll forward it on. But there aren't really like continual, as you're employed, mental health checks for really the majority of policing, at least where I'm at.
I'm curious if we were to play the hindsight game, and I guess this is a really hard question. If we look back, especially from the amount of military personnel we've taken on in the last 10 years with the conflicts we've had in the Middle East, if we were to reevaluate the way we look at fit for duty for both of our jobs now, if we would look back and maybe exclude some people we'd hire. And I don't, and like, not saying that they aren't good at the job, but if we look at it, because how many times, Jeremy, you and I said, like, how is a person's brain supposed to take 30 years of this?
Mm-hmm.
And if we throw them into 30 years of this with 4 years of it almost more intensely before, are we doing them a disservice?
Well, what fire department do you know that does a psych test before you get hired? I don't know of any.
Some of the suburban areas down south.
Okay.
But then they don't have I don't want to say they don't have the call volume that could bring out more issues, but they don't have the call volume of violence.
So,
you don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know, because just because somebody has went through trauma in the past, why does that necessarily preclude them from employment? Because, I mean, that takes out, okay, well, yes, I went through trauma in the past. I went and did what I needed to do, saw a therapist, dealt with it, and I'm fine now. So do we believe people can heal from PTS? Or do we not? What's our stance on that?
I don't know. I almost look at it like an addict sometimes. You're always an addict.
Well, see,
You've just been clean for a while.
Well, let me explain to you. So PTS is perfectly normal. It happens. Everybody, regardless of if you want to admit it or not, it happens. Post-traumatic stress is totally 100% normal. Where it becomes a problem is whenever you stay in it and it doesn't naturally resolve itself, and then it becomes post-traumatic stress disorder, which, if I remember right, it's about a week to 10-ish days. I'm sure somebody can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But once you hit that, then it becomes harder to heal from it, and you have longer lasting effects. It's not impossible to heal from it, though. And I mean, if it is, then we're writing off a whole generation of people.
You know, and I wonder, look at what we've asked this generation to do. I don't know that you could find anyone other than maybe the greatest generation, and that was 80-some years ago.
Yeah, but those guys had their problems too. It just wasn't talked about.
I know.
Until much, much later, and you figure out, oh, Grandpa was an alcoholic for 20 years, and he beat Grandma, and it was just not talked about.
I just, you look, especially with those that served overseas and then come and serve as first responders here. That's a hard swallow to look at what we've done the last 10 years to them. Especially those in urban areas. The violence increase, 2 years of COVID now. The just,
not to mention the public reperception of how they see police.
Oh God, let's just look. I mean, think about someone that served in Iraq or Afghanistan 1 or 2 tours and has been a cop for 10 years now. Holy shit. That's probably why we're seeing them leave in record numbers. And I just wonder if we were to look back and be like,
tilt your mic
if we were to look back on it,
down towards your face, not away from you. Come on, bro. Aren't you the sound guy?
Is this better?
That's better.
Can you hear me so much better now?
Oh, yeah.
No, it's if we were to look back on it, just if we would maybe, I hate to say weed them out, but just look at things differently of what we were going to be asking them to do.
Well, I don't disagree. I do think we should have some kind of mental health standard before people come in to the fire service, police departments, any type of public service like that. They kind of need to know what they're getting into. More of a, but you can gear those tests to make anybody fail. So, I mean, then you're relying on a psychologist or somebody like that who's going to go, okay, this person's okay. And it's not totally subjective, but it kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going off, they don't know that person.
Well, it's based off the fact, like you said earlier, the same wreck could have 2 different effects on us.
Yeah.
And the minute that it does, nothing is objective anymore.
Yeah.
And how do you, when you're putting a gun in somebody's hand and saying, this is a tool to do your job, it's a pretty objective tool for a subjective mind.
Mm-hmm.
If I am the person looking at it from a business perspective on paper, like, who is going to cost me money in a lawsuit, that's a hard task. I mean, you are a cop, you know better than us. We can tell you all day about the fire service, but I mean, looking back on your career,
I can't really think of anybody that's been like, wow, how did that dude get a gun? He needs to not. I think most of that stuff, if you're going to have a significant issue, it's going to be caught in our psych. I think is pretty good. And our polygraph is our big thing because the psych is similar to the polygraph in that it's geared towards you need to be honest, and if you're not being honest in it, it's going to be obvious and it's probably going to flag you. So it's going to ask things about have you ever thought about this? Things that people will think about but will never talk to each other about thinking about, and you've got to be honest on it because they can figure out if you're not being truthful, and that's gonna flag that a little bit. But the polygraph for sure, I mean, they can tell, and if you're lying on that polygraph, there's no way that you're getting in. So that's one thing we so stress to our applicants, no matter what question they ask you, no matter if it's embarrassing, no matter if you've never told anybody, you have to tell the truth, because if you get caught in one lie, you're not gonna be a cop. You can't, because you got to testify at court, right? Mm-hmm. So if you ever get caught lying, even while you're employed, you're done. That's the one. That's of course not the one, but we say the one sin you can't come back from. So I think our onboarding processes with us are pretty good. I know there are places that aren't as stringent. There are plenty of people that have tested with us and have failed and have gone on to work at other departments. So, unfortunately, everybody has their own onboarding processes, and there are a lot of places that could be more stringent and better about that, because when you hire a bad cop and they fuck up, it makes us all look bad. So,
You know, it's interesting though. We'll just look at just your department alone. You say lying's the one thing that would end your career, but how many officers do you think lie about their mental health?
yeah.
When you create a culture of honesty, yeah, this is the one thing we've just kind of accepted. Some guys may not be honest with.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting
Yeah.
conundrum.
Yeah. Do you guys have like mental health debriefs after significant events?
No,
We're supposed to.
a kitchen table.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That seems to have been the best avenue for us.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Do you
throw anybody under the bus. But
right.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like you have honest conversations when you have those kitchen table type conversations? Do those happen like they should?
It depends on your crew. It
Yeah.
totally does. It depends on where you work and who you work with.
and it's, I would say, like, at least speaking for my crew, they're honest, but only to us. Like, if an outsider were to look, I mean, we ran a real bad motorcycle wreck a few weeks ago. I mean, real bad. And like, it was a traumatic experience just for everybody involved. There were it was near a complex, so like that complex's security was there. They were kind of shook up by it. This person hit a city employee, so she was shook up by it. It was just a bad thing all the way around. And you know, there's that first kind of initial, like, we get back to the station, we're cracking jokes about it. There's just the very, very dark humor.
Right.
But as it continues within probably the hour, then the humor kind of slides away, and then there's the critical conversation of, you know, we happen to have a trainee with us, so we're, you know, kind of instructing the trainee on, here's what you look for, here's how you manage that, here's how you manage this. And then there was just kind of the, damn, that sucks, that kid was, you know, only 19 years old, and blah, blah, blah. And so as it progressed, it was honest from the get-go.
Yeah.
But if you were to film it and show it to somebody, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, I mean, yeah, there's true, honest debriefing, but I guess when I think of like the formal debriefing, it's never that. I've had that one time in my entire life. And it was, when I was in college. We had our quarterback was during summer weights. Great dude. His name was Matt. He plays on a Paralympic basketball team. Just good. Actually, we need to have him on sometime. He's just a cool dude. But we were lifting weights. He was doing some squats, was standing up, came back down, had about 300 pounds on, fell straight to his butt, broke his back, paralyzed from the waist down. Happened in front of all of us. It sucked. And just his career was gone just like that. And the university brought in like how many times have we talked about cultural competency? But just some psychologist that I'm sure was willing to do it, that had the greatest intentions. And it just, you know, just kind of around the room, how does everybody feel? What did you think about? Like, just so, if it was a standardized test of debriefing, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And whenever someone says that, that's what I always think, and I just have such a negative connotation in my mind for it because of that incident. It's like the one true one I've really had.
Yeah.
When I've had 10 times more significant things happen on this job, but they are surrounded by the kitchen table. And truthfully, I mean, it would be hard for me, I think, now, if we did have, you know, during the next bad incident, if they said, hey, we're going to do a debriefing, we're going to have someone come in. We're looking at almost 10 years of just stigma of that one incident that has just grown in me. It would be hard, I think, to set that aside and have a constructive debriefing at this point.
Well, we talked about that the other day whenever we were talking about cultural competency and stuff. And, you know, well, you weren't here. It was whenever you were in Moab.
Having fun.
Having fun. Yeah. But having somebody come in and, if you're going to talk to them or whatever, all it takes is that, especially with our cultures, all it takes is that one bad experience.
Right.
And that person is ruined. Like, because the word gets around.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're having a problem? Yeah. Well, don't go see that person because they're worthless. They didn't know what the hell they were doing, blah, blah, blah. And they could have had the greatest intentions, but they don't know our culture.
Yeah.
And they don't, they just didn't get it, it just didn't go well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. And there's some research about the whole debriefing process for police and fire, about not doing the group thing, doing it individually. Some groups are okay, some groups aren't, but, and I think basically what it boils down to, what I've been able to take out of the reading that I've done, is it goes back to it's individual.
Right.
It's this group may be great, and you can go do the debrief and everybody will get something out of it, and everybody's open and they share and it's cool. And then you're going to go to this group and it's going to be the total opposite. It's going to just go over like a turd in the punch bowl. And
well, for our lines of work too, there's kind of two types of debriefs. There's the operational and there's the mental health, right?
Yeah.
So we all have those large incidences where I think I don't know about law enforcement per se, but I think I would feel the same way, that we would all sit down in a group thing and be like, hey, all right, here's where protocol worked, here's where it didn't, here's operationally how this event went, here's things we could change. And that's where a group setting is good, because you've got spitfiring ideas, guys, hey, did you notice this? I saw this. That works. Mm-hmm. But how could you have that, especially if you think about a line of duty death? Mm-hmm. How could you successfully have that without involving the mental health aspect of it?
I mean, they do it. They've been doing after action reports for a long time. And it's like you said, they're looking at procedures and practices. What worked, what didn't, what went wrong. Okay, now we have to change this. And that's all the meeting is about. I've done one of those, I think, maybe two, for fires that I've been to. It's like, okay, well, the whole district is together and we talk about, what went right and what went wrong and what we need to do to fix it so it doesn't happen again. But the mental health thing is never talked about. It has to be kept separate from that.
We have mental health debriefs after big incidents, and they're completely separate. They're just like that. Mm-hmm. We may have an operational debrief, and that's going to be with supervisors and command staff, and just like that, what procedures worked, what didn't, what can we change, what can we do better next time. Mm-hmm. But that's usually not necessarily folks on scene. It could be, but that happens typically at supervisory levels.
Right.
And the mental health stuff is the guys who were there, obviously.
Yeah.
We'll have that after big events or really traumatic events. Sometimes we have them with, a fatality wreck or or you have an infant death or something like that, some traumatic stuff. And we'll do ours in a group setting, and they're not mandatory, but the couple that I've been to, I've been surprised that were actually super helpful for me. So I have a lot of I'm kind of hard on myself when I'm going through something. So I have a lot of self-doubt, and that why am I upset about this when it seems like other people aren't? That kind of harmful thinking,
Yeah.
So when I'm in a group setting and they go around and they ask these questions, and just one other person chimes up and says, hey, this is how I feel about this, then it tells me, oh, shit, it's okay to feel like that. I'm not the only person who's struggling or going through this. Yeah. So that's the couple that I've been in have been super beneficial for me.
Yeah. And that's the big lie, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's I'm the only one that feels this way.
Yeah.
I'm the only one that everybody else is managing it. Why aren't I?
Yeah. I've got to hide it. I've got to not talk about it because other people are just fine. And that's not the case. We just have this facade going on.
Oh yeah. And it's part of that, and we've talked about it, but it's that mentality and the personality traits or the personality types that come into this field.
Yeah.
We're the helpers, we're the doers, we don't need the help.
Yeah.
We're going to help everybody,
Right.
and I'm fine.
Yeah.
So, and then whenever it starts getting into your brain, why am I not fine? Why am I not fine?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when
Because
you
you
have
ain't fine, bro.
Right. Especially when you have complicated emotions too. Like since I've been in peer support, I've gone and I've done a couple of debriefs for other departments. And one I did with a department where they lost a couple of officers. And this was a place where their peer support wasn't like where as far progressed as we were and as a lot of places are now. This was several years back. And everybody came into that room with the idea of, I'm not fucking talking. I don't need to be here. I don't know what's going on. And at least like it wasn't psychiatrists in there. It's fellow cops that do it, right?
Yeah.
So when we got in there and it just took like one person talking and then finally everybody was talking, and there were some folks that had some anger towards one of the officers that was lost. Like, why did you do this? Why did this have to happen? And they were dealing with that stuff internally, but that wasn't something they were comfortable saying out loud to their peers because maybe they thought that's not a feeling I should be having or a thought I should be having, right?
Yeah. Well, nobody wants to speak ill of the dead.
Right.
Even if they were a colossal fuck up.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's still, well, he was a good guy.
Right.
Well, no, he did this and that's why this happened.
That's what
Right.
that's
You
what
know?
NIOSH is for.
Yeah.
They'll do it for you.
Yeah.
But when you have complicated emotions or you're feeling something you feel like you shouldn't be feeling or thinking something you think you shouldn't be thinking, to understand that somebody else is also going through that is super helpful.
Yeah. Well,
But
and
it's not for everybody.
yeah. But I think that's why peer support is so valuable.
Yeah.
Even the informal version, you know, of just having that conversation with your crew,
Right.
you know, or your partner or whoever, of being able to be open and honest and have that conversation with, hey, we're just going to talk about this and then we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
That's so invaluable. And I think by being able to do that, I think you head off some problems that could develop later.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but a lot of the issues that we face in our professions, as far as mental health goes, are self-inflicted.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because if we would just get out of our own way and talk about the shit
Yeah.
and stop using horrible coping mechanisms to, you know, the alcohol, the drugs, the whatever you want to, you know, we just put a bunch of crap on a dartboard and throw it at it and somebody's done it. You know?
Every time you start listing those things, I always think of that opening scene from The Other Guys. We're like, all the sex with women that we have to have that we don't want to.
yeah.
Like, every time we do that, I just always,
Aim for the bushes.
I just can't help it. Like, I can't hear that with a straight face anymore.
So in this scenario, are you Sam Jackson and I'm the Rock, or are you the Rock and I'm Sam Jackson?
Sorry, my immaturity came through. Please forgive us.
No, but I mean, that's my viewpoint. Right, wrong, whatever. I think if we would just be a little bit more open and honest and have the conversations, it could head off a lot of that stuff and do it early.
Oh, yeah.
You know, don't wait until you're 10 years in, even 5 years in.
Yeah.
You know, because by then your pattern's kind of set.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, we've talked about, for every single step, one step that you take down that path, it's 10 steps to get back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much harder.
Right.
And you're bucking the culture part of the way.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how it is. I would assume, I don't want to assume, but it's kind of the same with law enforcement, like going out drinking and doing all that stuff is maybe not encouraged, but it's definitely accepted.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just part of the culture
Yeah.
of, hey, we're going to get together after work, or we're going to have a crew day out, or, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go to the ball game and get fucked up, and then
Right.
we're going to go to the bar and get fucked
Go
up.
on a float
and
trip, get
go-
fucked up. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
See?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the
I like
whole,
her. She's my friend now.
yeah, that's how, you know, it's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
And it just keeps coming back around.
Yeah.
So,
I struggle, and having, you saw this when I got burned, right?
yeah.
My reaction to like going on modified or doing anything else was no, fuck that, not doing it. No, forget it.
Yeah.
And that's what's easy in our line of work with the physical injuries. They are objective. The mental health is always subjective, and I know a lot of people, same as you guys, that they don't want to. It's not so much. I mean, they feel like their feelings are almost selfish.
Yeah.
And the great debate is whether they are or not. And I think we still have to take a realistic look and say, like, this is appropriate to feel, this is not appropriate to feel.
So,
But I don't know that any of us could ever really put our finger down on what is or isn't. Because, again, it's subjective for the person, for the incident.
Well, so I'll pose this question to both of you. Okay. So, how many calls can you run if you have 2 broken legs?
That's 0.
Right?
As a cop, who knows? They don't do a lot.
I mean,
Right.
Set in a car, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, sit in the car.
We just make sure it's safe so you can come in.
You don't,
Yeah,
have,
there
you
you
don't
go.
have to have legs to hold a radar gun.
So, but do you get my point? Of it's an injury, and if you don't take the time to heal that injury, you're of no use to anybody.
Yeah.
And your mind is the same way. If you're not taking the time to work out your mind, keep it right, who are you helping?
You know
Don't
what's-
become part of the emergency.
What's interesting, though, is how do you fix 2 broken legs?
It's time
Yeah, but there's
or surgery.
Yeah, certain, like right. Like
Yeah.
there are. It's one or the other. Like we know how to fix broken legs. We've been doing it for years. Medicine has pretty well fine tuned it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you fix PTSD? There's 20 different ways.
Yeah. And you have to find the one that works for you, and that's the important part is finding the one. And being so, and this is a thing that a lot of people.
But you think about it too, Jeremy. If there's 20 different ways to fix a broken leg, by the time you found the way to fix your leg, it might be too late.
Yeah. Or it might just be easier to live life with your 2 broken legs and just keep trying and getting your hopes up and it not working out.
I'm not saying
Well,
you shouldn't try. I'm just like we got to
so-
look at it in the realm of mental health.
Right. So here's the thing: a lot of people they'll go to one treatment modality,
Yeah.
like talk therapy, or they'll do EMDR one time, or they'll go to a group, or pick your poison. Well, that didn't work. Okay, you tried it one time, and then you got the other people who will. That's all they'll do. They'll go to talk therapy for years and not get any better. Whenever if they'd have just went and did EMDR one time, they'd have been fixed 10 years ago. It's being an advocate for yourself. And I'm not saying you cut it off immediately. If one time doesn't work, then you move on to something else. You have to give it time to work, right? You got to try it. It's like medicine. You got antibiotics. You got to take it for 7 to 10 days. You take it for 7 to 10 days. You don't stop after day 2.
Take it to zombie apocalypse. It is. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's because we ain't taking our damn antibiotics.
Yeah. So, but you have to give treatment time to work. And just like whenever you have your surgery for your broken leg, you have to give it time to heal. And it's going to be different for everybody. And realizing that is a step in the right direction. That's a step towards healing in and of itself.
We just do a shit job of promoting it.
Yeah.
That's like like I said, we all know what to do for 2 broken legs.
Yeah.
You say, hey, did you hear what happened? Yeah, he's probably gonna have surgery. Or I mean, we don't sit at the fire station. Hey, did you hear about Jeremy had a bad call? Yeah, I bet EMDR is gonna be his thing. I don't know. Talk therapy might we don't have those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know about you guys, but at least for us, like, there's been a couple of times where we've had somebody like go on light duty or desk duty or whatever you guys call it, because of like some mental health stuff. And that was always looked on like, wow, is he like fucking suicidal? Is he like, what's wrong with him? And it was always looked upon really, really poorly. And what was filled me with so much joy, several months back, this was this year, we had somebody have to go on desk duty for something had happened in their life, and they were having some mental struggles, and they were just taking some time to deal with it. And instead of having that attitude, everybody at the department was like, wow, she's been through so much. I'm wishing her the best. Like, I hope she gets through this. And it was just a complete fucking shift. And it was just out of nowhere, it seemed like. And it was so encouraging that we have done so much work over the last several years to shift our perspectives. Because that was always what it was. Like, oh, well, he's fucking crazy. He's not allowed, he can't have his gun. He's on desk duty for, like, psycho shit.
Or he's milking it.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, and that's where I think you guys are definitely on the right track. Your culture has shifted
Oh, yeah.
to that point because, I mean, and I'll be honest, in our department, it's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
You're going to have guys or girls that are like, man, I hope they get better.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to have the other 50% go, they're always on modified.
Yeah.
They're just, playing game in the system, whatever.
How bad is it up north?
Right.
How bad is
Yeah.
it down
Yeah.
south?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is
So-
the first time that I had ever in my career experienced that with somebody going on desk duty for that. And that was amazing. I hope we stayed that course because that was really encouraging to see. And then anybody else that goes through that will see that and be like, okay, maybe it's okay for me to do
Let me
this.
ask you this, though. Was that individual transparent about what was going on so that those and see, that's another catch-22. Do I have to be transparent with what's fucked up in my life just for you to accept it?
I mean, that's a good question.
As soon as she said that,
you post
Yeah.
everything on Facebook, so.
but
I mean,
as soon as
everybody knows.
as soon as she was saying that, I was like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I bet people liked her, and she was transparent about what was going on.
Yeah. And we're so gossip and drama driven that, like, if folks aren't tuned into what's going on, then all these rumors are going to fly and be like, oh, well, maybe this happened. Well, maybe this happened. And then that's where people's attitudes are going to go.
Yeah.
Not to, oh, wow, yeah, what happened was messed up. I can understand why they feel that way. They need some help. Good for them.
Like it's almost like you can't have privacy and transparency. You can have
Yeah.
one or the other. If you get your privacy,
Yeah.
you open up the rumors. If you want the transparency, you lose your privacy. Not saying that's how it should be. It's just, but hey,
Yeah.
that's a step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it used to just be doesn't matter what
Right.
Yeah.
you're all pussies. But
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
this is a step.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So,
And if we,
then-
as more senior folks in our fields, can get with our younger folks as they come on, as they go through this traumatic stuff, and start them down that path, we have the ability to really shift where our cultures go. Like, when I very first got hired, my first year, I saw like an awful murder-suicide. And I was with a senior crew, and I anticipated that I would have to be like, I had all the stereotypes of law enforcement when I came in of you have to just tough it out and man up and you can't talk about it. And these real senior guys came to me and were like, that was really messed up what we had to see. Like, are you doing okay? Just checking in with me. But I was too stupid to open up about it and accept the help they were giving me. And it was
Well-
just, I had this wall up and I was like, I'm not going to let you break that down. So I then ended up dealing with it years later and just suffering for much longer than I had to. Whereas once I figured out I could just go to talk to somebody. So I had another one, obviously I've had several, but years later I'd had one that was probably the worst one I'd ever seen. And immediately afterwards I just found a closet. I cried for a minute. I went out, I found somebody, I talked to him about it. And I didn't think about it another day after that. It's just how, if you can just find somebody, another cop, another firefighter that knows what it's like and just vent to them about all this crap that you saw, then just the ability to get it out, you can close your eyes at night without seeing their face,
yeah.
you know?
But that's a perfect example of people being ready to talk about it
Yeah.
and people not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even as senior people, yeah, you can go lay the foundation of, hey, if you need to talk about this, I'm here.
Right.
It's up to them to take it.
Right.
Now, if they come in like you had preconceived notions of this and that and the other, it might be a little bit tougher.
Right.
I think it's
think about
upon us as senior people to kind of stay after them a little bit.
Right.
To say, no, it's really okay.
Yeah.
We're not busting your balls. We're not going to hammer
Right.
you. I
Yeah.
mean, you can sit here while we talk about it because
Yeah.
it was fucked up and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
we
So-
do it to ourselves though. Like if you think back to your academies, it is 99.9%. Hey, shut the fuck up. You don't have an opinion. You're new. Nobody gives a shit. And 0.01% of, but if you're having problems, make sure you talk about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's weird is like you still have to maintain that. Hey, shut the fuck up. You don't have an opinion. Like listen and learn, especially in our jobs. Like
Yeah.
these people with time on have a lot to teach you. Keep your mouth shut and your ears open.
You have two ears and one mouth.
But-
Use them proportionally.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, like still, like it's
Yeah.
hard. It's a hard
Yeah.
balance to play. I don't know the perfect balance for it. But
Well, that's where leadership comes in.
what's that?
That's yes. It's what I exhibit every day. Just classy leadership. But no, I mean, and really, but that's where leadership at every level in your organization comes in. from, the 2-year person or the 3-year person or the 4-year person all the way up to your sergeants and your captains and, if you're on the fire side, drivers, captains, senior firefighters, all the way up to chiefs and stuff. You need to have leadership in every level of your organization.
Yeah.
That is giving the same consistent message. So whenever you, James, as a 5-year, 7-year, what are you now, 5-year firefighter, whenever...
Oh, wait, 5.5.
Oh, 5.5. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to short you that 6 months.
A good leader would know.
Dude, shut the fuck up. You don't have enough time on it. So, but, you're an FTO. You train people, the new medics, don't you? Right. So whenever you've got a new medic under you, even though you only have 5 years, you still have to exhibit leadership.
I saw a meme the other day on Facebook, and it was this medic page I follow, and it was the picture of Forrest Gump when he's talking to Jenny in the apartment after he comes. Mm-hmm. And it was like me when I get assigned a new trainee, and it's like, is he smart or is he like me? And I was like, fuck, that's me.
Okay, so back on topic.
That's so true.
But you know what I'm saying, though? It's your responsibility. It's not my responsibility as your captain to be like, okay, James, are you making sure that you're being a leader to this guy and you're showing him to do it the right way and you're doing this? I shouldn't have to tell you that. We should have went over that day one. These are my expectations for you. I expect you to do this. You know better than I do what that medic needs to know. Can we agree on that?
Actually, no. And hear me out. I'm not trying to be a dick about it. Mm-hmm. When it comes to clinical, yes.
And that's what I'm talking about.
But it's, as well as I do in our OJT and our FTO process, clinical's the half of it.
Yeah.
Like, you as my leader are responsible for developing me as a leader.
Absolutely.
Maybe not in the clinical aspect because you're not a medic, but there are still other things that, sometimes I know how to train this guy to our protocols and blah, 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 but there are some times, and that's happening with me right now, like with my captain, I'm like talking over here, and then I'm like, hey, am I doing this right? It's good. Okay. Yep. Keep doing it. Good. Yeah. Okay. It's just some of that give and take because I'm learning too.
Right.
So
yeah. And I'm not discounting that, and I'm not saying that that's not the protocol or that's not what needs to happen. What I'm saying is that you have to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because technically you're supervising that person. So, and I don't expect you to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I don't know anybody that does. But I have to be willing as a leader, just like you have to be willing as a leader, to go find help, to find the answer to whatever it may be.
I'm very good at, man, that's a great question.
Google.
Hey, Siri. But, yeah, I'm curious, too, kind of what this pandemic has done. I don't even I say pandemic, but by that I just mean the last 2 years. Yeah. In both our jobs, it's really, I think where this job is going is kind of, the leadership of both of it, I think, is having a hard time catching up, right? Like, we were used to the norms in these jobs, and all of a sudden now just kind of the top's blown off of it, and leaders are like, whoa, where are we going? You look at it in fire and EMS, just with the healthcare aspect of the pandemic. But you also look at it equally in the same timeline with law enforcement, really the culmination of the Mike Brown effect, especially highlighting with George Floyd. For every critic, though, I've found of law enforcement in the last 2 years, I've also found a person that has said, I didn't realize all this went on. Because while we're trying to expose the bad things that allegedly law enforcement do or what we don't like about them, we're also kind of showing people what they actually have to deal with on a daily basis. Yeah. After George Floyd, it was cool for the media to be like, oh, look, this cop might have done something wrong. And we'd hurry up and throw half a video clip out there and spin a narrative. And 99% of the time, the truth came out and we were like, oh, yeah, that's what they have to deal with.
Yeah.
You look at the guy that pulled the taser on the cops in Atlanta and was shot and killed, or Jacob Blake that tried to pull the knives on the cops after, and got shot after he had beat up some. Like, we show this little clip, and more people are taking the time to educate themselves and pulling the blinders back a little bit. And I think now our management and both don't have the luxury of just hiding all the bad shit that we have to do. Like, hey, cool T-shirt, women love you, free coffee at Quick Trip.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah. Now all of a sudden, like I said, the top's blowing off, and the public is really kind of exposed to what we're doing. And I mean, unfortunately, we've kind of seen it in our numbers of people applying.
Applicants, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people understand, like, wow, this isn't such a, like, glorious job. Like, we get to do some cool stuff, but there's also, like, really awful stuff that we have to deal with. And the more people are aware of that, the less people don't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and not to mention the potential, especially for you guys, of just doing your job can get you sent to prison.
Yeah.
But now,
So-
I've seen...
Or, I mean, our uniform, it's a bit target on our back. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of times we'll just get shot in the back of the head just for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to be aware of that. And it used to be that you would come to that realization while you were in field training. And now it's the public is becoming aware of that.
Yeah.
So the amount of people that are willing to do that job has definitely decreased.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the public expectation of the police has also dramatically changed. And we have to change with that because we only have our authority to do our jobs from the public. So if the public as a whole decides that we want our police to do something differently, then we have to take that seriously. So there definitely have been changes for us through the last several years with the pandemic. But a big struggle for us that isn't quite so hyped is training. Because during COVID, we almost kind of effectively stopped.
Same for us. Like,
Yeah.
we moved strictly
did.
to online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's...
I'm sorry, but online training, especially for
Our jobs.
it is not,
Right.
let's just say it's not optimal.
Yeah.
It's
mean,
not
there's
applicable. It's,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you can watch somebody break down a door a million times.
Right.
What-
Doesn't mean you're going to be, and most of us are hands-on.
Well,
Yeah.
look at both
Like-
of our academies. Like, you guys are doing defensive techniques on each other. We're actually breaking down doors. We're like, a computer screen cannot simulate 500 degrees in a room.
Right.
A computer screen cannot simulate an aggressive attacker coming at you and the split-second decision you have to make.
Yeah.
No matter how many buttons you have to click, how fast or whatever, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're 1,000% right. Public, they're like, well, we need better training. Okay,
Right.
Yeah.
we're waiting on it too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and
I
especially
mean-
in the height of COVID, even field training when they were working the street with another cop, we weren't fucking taking calls. Like, it had to be somebody, like a domestic incident, somebody's getting beat up, something is happening right now. Like, just about everything was taken over the phone unless we had to be there and something was in. Like, it was so dramatically different than anything we'd ever done.
And same for us.
And
ours-
as we go back, now we have these folks that have been cops for 2 years, and we're just now starting to take some of these calls again, and they've never done it before. So, I mean,
we had, for us, ours was, we were sending one person in the house on medical
oh, wow.
calls. Talk about being
Yeah.
a fucking canary. I
Yeah.
hated it. I'm walking in there all suited up, and everyone's like, good luck. And I'm like,
Yeah.
hope I make it out.
Right.
But, we had
Dude, I
these new
hated
guys
that.
that were on OJT or hadn't even really been broken on the ambulance yet. Or, I mean, there were some guys that came on, went through their floating time, went straight to a pumper, really didn't do a lot of ambulance time, and they're standing in the yard, like, just their EMS skills per se, like,
Yeah.
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 hey, what do you need? That's what they got really good at.
Yeah.
Do you guys have cops run your medical calls with you guys?
It depends.
Yeah, it depends.
So,
Like when I worked in an old department before this one, it was they were slower, so they came with us on everything. Just
Yeah.
but here it's
yeah.
any what we call our stage calls, so like unknowns, which
Right.
some of them are dumb.
Yeah.
Well,
we
like
had,
two 80-year-olds getting in a fight at the nursing home, stage for PD. Why?
Yeah.
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 Well, we had to check the welfare yesterday that they wanted us to stage on. Like, okay, well, why are we staging? Well, daughter hasn't heard from dad in a day. We're not staging on
Right.
that.
Yeah.
That's on the list of my thinking of things that may harm my crew.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty far down the list.
Right.
But then I
Now
had
it-
one like last week. It was cardiac arrest and 41-year-old male, and we go pulling up to the house, which looks sketchy as fuck anyway.
Yeah.
And then
Know your area,
Yeah.
James.
Yeah.
You
And
know
then
where
we-
you work.
I was on the east side, not the bad east side, the east side.
Okay.
Yeah, and we go walking up. We're like, and there's some like lady crying on the porch. She's like, "He's in there. He's not breathing." Would we like to guess why he wasn't breathing? Because a claw of a hammer was stuck out of his fucking head.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
That'll do it.
yeah,
that's contraindicative to
So-
life.
yeah. Mechanism of injury.
Yeah.
So of course, like I was so mad because we like we're like backing out of the house like quick as shit. We're leaving bloody boot prints now, and PD is like sprinting up. And they're like, "What are you doing?" We're like, they're like, "Why'd you guys go in there?" Like, listen, we just got this as a code, which it is, but there's more to it.
Yeah.
See what happened was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We that was during the height of COVID. We would be running calls with fire and medical, and that was a complete change for us. And that like we would go to the medical calls, and we would stage, and y'all would go in on medicals and be like, "Hey, we need you. We don't need you. It's safe for you to come in here. Y'all need to mask up." Like it was so flipped.
Oh, why didn't we take
It was
advantage of that
amazing.
son of a bitch?
It was so funny. It was like, hey, we're gonna like stage, and y'all can let us know if it's safe. Like it was such a weird time.
Why didn't our city do that?
That'd be great.
That would have been.
It was like it was.
I tell you, we weren't fucking going in. Like,
I will never forget. For us here in our city, it was like a 3-month lull from March when it started till Memorial Day weekend. I remember it like it was
Yeah.
like a ghost town.
yeah.
Everything really slowed down.
Yeah, like we were getting nights in on the ambulances, and so like randomly somebody would call for bullshit and like toe pain, and we'd be like, "I mean, we can take you to the hospital, but you could probably die of COVID." No, man, I'm good. Okay. Cool. And then I remember Memorial Day weekend after the riots on the Plaza and George Floyd, it just exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like we have never recovered from it.
Yeah.
Violence skyrocketed. Like, it's just like the whole public were like, "We're free!" And then
Yeah.
we've been on a 2-year-long purge. Like, that's what it fucking feels like, truthfully. I have seen things these last 2 years where I'm just like, the fuck?
Yeah. Dude,
But-
and it's only gonna I think the trend is only gonna continue to go upwards with call volume, the types of stuff that we're running.
Yeah.
I mean, let's all be honest. Police, you guys are short staffed.
Oh yeah.
It's not like criminals don't know that.
Right.
You know?
And I just saw our department's FOP today, just on Facebook, released their below minimum staffage shortages over. Like, I was just like,
Well,
holy shit!
I just found out how far down staffing we are the other day. In actuality, we'll talk about that off camera. But yeah, it's disturbing,
Yeah.
to say the least, of how we're managing to move along and just keep this thing going on baling wire and duct tape
Right.
for how long?
Yeah.
2 weeks, 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I don't see it stopping. I mean, our call volumes just for us since I've come on the job have more than tripled,
Yeah.
and it's going to continue to go up.
Just in my 5 years, we went from I think 100,000 to 150,000.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it's not going anywhere. And I mean, we're trying to keep up with, hiring new people and getting people in, but I mean, as fast as we can hire people, we have people retire.
Oh yeah.
Or just leave.
Or just leave,
Yeah.
which never happened. Like I'd say my first 10 years on the job, I could count on one hand the number of people that left that either weren't seriously, legitimately injured and could not do the job anymore, or retired.
Yeah.
If it was just somebody said, I don't want to do this anymore and left, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it was extremely, extremely rare. And now it's like,
Every month.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
I got 2 years. Oh, see ya.
Bye. Yeah. I came on 10 years ago, and more than a third of our department was retirement eligible, and they were just staying around. And now the vast, vast majority of our patrol division is 2 years or less. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's just constant turnover.
That's
Yeah.
kind of how it is with our EMS side too. And I laugh all the time because, like, especially when I first came on, we would show up to some emergency and here's a 23-year-old, a 25-year-old, and a couple 22-year-old cops, and we're like, they left the city in our hands. They are stupid. Like,
stand by.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's scary.
Hell, dude, I worked the other day.
Now I know why old people are so grouchy all the time.
I worked the other day with the 2 firefighters that I had legitimately could have been my kids. And not like I had them in high school kids. Like, yeah. I was like, okay,
Dad?
we're all going to get through this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know what it's like with you guys, but for us, like all the agencies kind of in the metro, or it's kind of like a bidding war for everybody's officers. Like it's just everybody's changing their salary amounts.
For our medics, that's definitely what it is. It's and it's hard, especially like kind of in your area versus our area, like where there's money.
Yeah.
But it's one of those catch-22s. Like you can go where the money, like Tyreek Hill just did, for example. That son of a bitch.
what happened? Oh, did he actually? Did they trade him?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like
I saw earlier they were thinking about it.
yeah, but I mean, you can chase the money, but it's like, what do you want? Do you want the call volumes or do you want the money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing more and more now, especially as we push mental health, hate to say it, like I'm taking the money and the low call volume.
Yeah.
Taking the money and then going home and seeing my family not dead ass exhausted.
Yeah.
And we can't fault them for it.
Yeah.
And we're losing them for both because we used to be the highest paid, and now we're one of the lowest, and they're just not increasing it. They're just sticking it out, and we can't convince them otherwise. So we're losing them for the higher pay, and we're losing them to you guys for the call volume. Being able to, chase cars and kick doors in and do all kinds of fun stuff that we don't get to do all that often. So,
but yeah, it's like a sense of pride, but it's not necessarily constructive. Like we go to the other hospitals and like 3 a.m. and I'm rolling out in like bunker gear and like a dirty ass shirt and a hat, and I got some drunk. We're taking the hospital and there's like your suburban department with their nice tucked in polos. I'm like, you fuckers don't even know. You have no idea.
yeah. I feel like I would have loved the high speed, low drag when I was younger. So it makes sense for me when these 21, 22, 23-year-olds go to it. Now I'm just like, I am way too fucking tired to deal with that shit. I'm just, keep me where I'm at. And not to mention going through an academy again. I can't imagine some of these people that go through an academy, go through all of that, and then leave and go through another academy.
I'm doing that once.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
You're going to have to pay me a lot of money to get me to do that again.
Yeah. I don't think it's realistic how much they would have to pay me to do
Well,
that
especially
again.
like going to some of these like suburban departments where they're like, yeah, I'm like, hey, motherfucker, shut up.
Yeah.
I'm 31 years old. You ain't gonna talk to me like that.
Yeah.
And then James will be looking for a new job.
Yeah, and then
because that's not acceptable there.
And I'll go on to the next one.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what is going on with SWEL? What's the next big thing?
Yeah, so we've got 2 things that we are currently fundraising for. One is we have a fighter fire trip that we're going to be taking folks out on a surf mission trip to California. And then we have, we've partnered with the Police Athletic League in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that once before where we've taken a group of kids from the inner city area.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, over the course of several months, taught them to swim at like a local YMCA. And then we take them and their families out to California and we teach them to surf. And kind of along the same lines of getting you out of your environment and introducing you to new things. And it's kind of like a bonding experience for those kids that are like roughly the same age, kind of from the same area. But kind of along the same lines of like I said, getting you out of your environment and teaching you something new. Obviously the goal for them is a little bit different. But most of these kids have experienced significant traumas in their very young lives, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So it does help to get them in a place where they can kind of forget about kind of all the crap that's going on. But we're getting ready to do our second trip with that. So we're going to take those kids and we're going to getting ready to start teaching them to swim again, and a whole different group of kids. So like I said, we partner with PAL on that. and they come out and they help us and get them to where they could be somewhat comfortable in the ocean, and take them out. And it's really cool to see how quick the kids catch on surfing than the adults do. Because typically everybody we send out has never surfed before. And these kids, within the first hour, they're up on the board and they're going. And just as an adult, to see that is like, okay, that's kind of crazy how coordinated you could be at that age and how quickly you can catch up with it.
Being able to learn new skills is definitely, you're more able to do that the younger that you are. It's like playing an instrument.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's really cool. We just did, for our first PAL trip, we just put together a big video. We kind of hired a production company, and they put together this video that kind of showcased everything we were able to do with them, and that's kind of a promotional video that we have. But yeah, we're also going to do our firefighter trip, and that's more of our basic why we exist. Our primary of what we do is we take folks that are either military or first responders. We take them out of their environment and take them out to the beach in California, teach them how to surf, and get them away from the gunk at home for a little bit, and just get to relax and have a good time. So
Cool.
I'm still not doing it.
Oh, you're doing it.
I'm not doing
Whenever
it.
our
Jeremy, we've talked about this.
when our opportunity-
There's sharks. I'm not doing it.
It's fine.
Okay, I may or may not show you a picture then.
Rob
I'm
said,
not fucking doing it.
Rob said no one has ever been bit
Yeah.
on
Jeremy,
a swell trip.
How many black
That
people?
is
How many
true.
black people went on this trip?
we've had at
Dude,
least one.
this is not Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
You're not Sam Jackson. You're LL Cool J in this movie. You live.
From my first trip, there's a picture of me out in the ocean on my surfboard, and behind me there's several fins in the water. They were dolphins.
Get fucked, I'm not
they
doing
were
it.
dolphins. But
No, she's lying.
no.
She's lying.
Well, I'm still here and have all of my limbs.
I'll tell
Because you
you
could
what.
probably swim faster than me.
Right. Not
Dude.
faster than a shark, bro.
I'll tell you what. We'll get a drone, because you can see them down in the.
And
so
we
I'll
do.
fly,
We have a drone out there, yeah.
I'll fly the drone, and we'll give you a little two-way communication, and I'll be like, okay,
Oh, you want me to trust you now?
10 degrees to the port side. You're good,
Right.
bro.
Right.
Not doing it.
Yeah.
I will stand on that beach. I will cheer you motherfuckers on so loudly. And I'll yell when I see a shark. But I ain't doing
Man. They had a lot of dolphins out there. That was like when they're clustered up like that, they're dolphins. If there was just one, I mean, I had a little bit of pucker power there for a minute, but when there's just one, that's when you need to worry, when they're kind of clumped together like that.
It just means feeding frenzy.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
What, man?
I'm not doing it.
Oh, you're such a Debbie Downer.
No, pick anything else. I literally, I don't know if you saw the picture, I just hung off a 3,000-foot cliff with my winch because it was cool. I'm not fucking with sharks.
No, I
Not the
didn't see
sharks, man.
picture.
It's the water.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
my
get
water.
hit in the face with a big ass wave that drags you under. That's what you need to worry about.
I can swim. I just can't swim faster than sharks.
I can swim. Some of these can knock you down. You gotta be careful.
The ocean is different
Yeah.
than
Okay,
the
great.
little pond
great.
you
thanks,
grew up swimming
Thanks
in.
for still continuing to prove my point.
We'll get you some water wings. You'll be fine.
You want to talk? You
Yeah,
want to
we
talk
have
about
some
PTSD?
little ducky
I'm gonna have
floaties.
PTSD from this goddamn trip. That's what I'm gonna have. I'm gonna have to seek counseling for the counseling I went and sought.
Oh.
Don't be a pussy. Suck it up.
No. You are
Right,
validating my feelings.
Right.
Everybody else do it.
You're
Me,
such a
I'm not doing it.
millennial.
I'm not-
Yep, I said it.
Oh, so all you Gen Xers or Gen Yers or whatever the hell were just fine with dying by sharks?
Dude, you have more of a chance.
Jaws was that era, not ours. I think
got
there's more
more-
fear of sharks
Yeah.
in that era.
You got more of a chance of dying.
Deep Blue Sea fucked me up.
You got more of a chance dying in your Jeep than
Yeah.
you do of getting eaten by a shark.
And you know what happens if I die in my Jeep?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be in a happy place. You know what's going to happen is I'm getting eaten by sharks. You're going to see two middle fingers popping out of the water towards you guys. That's what's going to happen. That's not a
I
happy,
told
that's
you.
not a happy place for me.
So what you're saying is there's a chance. You're open to the possibility.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Yeah. Figured. All right. Well, Rachel, any closing thoughts? Anything you'd like to leave us with?
Just it's with us being in Kansas and talking about like first responders and military and surfing. There's a bit of a disconnect when we talk with folks. So just trying to get out there that surf therapy not only exists, but it's scientific fact that it does significantly help with PTSD, with trauma, with mental health in general. There have been all kinds of studies on it, and we actually we got to collaborate. Super lucky, collaborate with an organization that does something similar over in the UK with their first responders, and they're partnering with a university out there to continue the study into what they're doing specifically. So it's real, it works, it's super beneficial. I've done it, and I can tell you, it's crazy amount of benefit to me with what I went through. So just trying to get that information out to not only military and first responders in general, but to folks here in the Midwest where we don't think surfing and mental health, is just trying to get that narrative out there has been a little bit of a struggle, but just working on that, super important.
Yeah, and it's like we talked about, the removing you from the environment.
So important. So important. Yeah. If I lived in California and I went and did the same thing, it wouldn't have had anywhere near the same benefit because I would have still been there, would have been going home at the end of every day, seeing my coworkers, seeing my friends, seeing his family. You're still in that place and can't escape it. And just being able to escape your environment and yourself and your own thinking while you're going through that, even just for a little bit, was so beneficial.
Where can folks find you on Cow on TikTok?
Yeah, so
I'll put the link in the description.
Yeah. So my TikTok with all my little farm animals and my famous little cow, she's at do the scarn, so do.the.scarn. And that's an Office reference if you guys are Office fans. So that's my personal for my farm. And then SWEL is at the SWEL mission on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. James, parting thoughts.
A lot of good discussion. I feel like of all the cops we've had on, we picked her brain more kind of than we have the others. It was, I don't know, it was good. Just kind of doing more of the kind of, especially the comparisons when it comes to like debriefing and onboarding and checkups between the comparisons between fire and law, because so much we're like, oh, we do the same job, it's so similar, but which it is.
Right.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of differences, which I thought we highlighted today. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. So everybody.
Oh, and then let's not forget that they staged for fire.
Yes, we did. And I miss those days so much.
I feel like there needs to be a meme once you're out of Facebook jail.
Yeah.
Actually, there is one. I'll try to find it and send it to you.
Well, nothing beats the fire department getting the PD guys stuck out of the elevator. That may or may not happen in our city.
I did hear about that.
Yeah, that one is like the all-time like.
Come on, it's just trying to help some people out.
Right.
It wasn't malicious. Anyway, all right. So everybody, we've had Rob Sanderson on, also with SWEL. Now Rachel's been here with SWEL. So you guys check them out, donate, support. They have a great mission. So, and we really stand behind them and support them as well. If you are struggling, reach out. There are resources out there. If you know somebody that is struggling, reach out. Let them know. Let them know that you care. Let them know what resources are out there. If you don't know what resources are out there, it's readily available. You can find it. Just ask somebody. Ask Google. I don't care. Just ask somebody. Don't suffer in silence. Because like we talked about earlier, that's the big lie. You're not the only one that feels this way. Everybody goes through it. So get the help that you need. There's no shame in it. It's actually a strength. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.